Okay. So the first thing is it's definitely going to be an interactive session, and the major purpose why we're here is to learn about leadership. So I will implore us to get our writing materials, your pen, your paper. If you're going to use your phone, your notepad, anything, definitely that you take down notes so that you can always refer to this even after this session today. And also put away every form of distraction. You can get somewhere quiet so that you get the most from this conference. Also, please ensure that your mic stays muted throughout the session to avoid distractions. And then along the session, if you have questions from any of the speaker, you can always just drop them in the chat box. We have this specific session for question and answers, and we'll take those questions. So you can always drop your question in the chat box, or you send a private message for your question. While the speakers are also, while the session is also going on, it's important that we follow through, we drop messages, nuggets, what you are learning as we move on this session. Just make the chat box as interactive as possible, interact with each other, contribute, and then let's have a good time this evening. We'll be starting off with our national anthem. I'll be taking that in the next 1 minute. So please stay muted. We are going to play the national anthem, and then you can just follow through. Thank you.
Arise, O compatriots, Nigeria's call obey, to serve our fatherland with love and strength and faith. The labor of our heroes past shall never be in vain. To serve with heart and might, one nation bound in freedom, peace and unity.
God bless Nigeria. So we'll be moving on to the session in a bit, but before then, I would like to just introduce our speakers, and then we'll move to the first speaker for today. We have 4 speakers. I'm sure most of you would have seen the flyer. We have our first speaker, who is Mr. Adebayo. We have Mr. Adebayo, who is the CEO and the lead consultant for the Personalized solution. We have Zulu Sipwe, sorry if I didn't get that correctly, and she's a global policy development enthusiast. We also have Tolokwe Olashewere, who's an Harvard University graduate. And then we have Chooks, who currently acts as the team lead for TYIL community. So those are the 4 speakers that we have for today. So we're moving on to the first speaker. We share his profile, and then we invite him up to speak. Okay, so our first speaker for today is Mr. TYIL Adigun, and he's a CEO and lead consultant for the Cross-Style Solution, a people development and management consulting firm. He has qualifications as an organization leader from the Harvard Business School with over 10 years in management, providing solutions to firms, banks, and businesses. Let's welcome Mr. Adebayo Adigun. Mr. Adebayo Adigun, over to you, sir.
All right. Thank you so much, Tommy. Thank you for this invitation. And kudos to the entire team for putting this up together. Once again, happy Independence Day to everyone. And I want to say thank you for inviting me to be part of this session. It's always an honor, especially when it comes to leadership. It's what I live for, it's what I want to do for the rest of my life. I just want to talk from leadership, from sunrise to sunset, and help people to get it right at that very early stage. So thank you so much to the organizer. Thank you, Israel, for putting this together. Thank you to the entire team. All right, so let's get to it. I know I have about 25 minutes for this, so I need to set my, my timer here so that at least we're on point and we stick to the itinerary for today. Wonderful. When I saw the topic, I was so excited about this topic. And you know why? Because this has been my own conversation from, for well over 13, 15 years right now. The leadership needs to change. And I welcome you with this particular story, just to be able to get us into this particular conversation. So about 5 years or 6 years ago, I was facilitating a training in a public organization, precisely CBN. And I was training, top leaders, assistant directors, and all of that. And we had this conversation in the class, and we were talking about employee motivation and what do we need to do to be able to motivate people and all of that. So this man got up and said, oh yes, Abaya, I joined this organization about 20, 25 years ago. And do you know what? I remember those days, my boss rather, would always present her this plaque, employee of the month, boldly written on it. And in fact, that was the height of it for us then. We're all motivated by that. We're constantly always looking forward to that, that plague every time. And that got us to it. So I thought about it. I noticed there was this low energy in my team. And I was asking myself, what exactly can I do to be able to elevate this emotion? What exactly can I do to help my team grow? So I thought about what my boss did to us about 20, 25 years ago. And I went out of my way. So I went out there, designed and paid for it. Personally, I didn't even collect the money from the organization. Personally, I did this on my own. And guess what? Monday morning, I invited guys and I said, oh, guys, you're welcome. Today, I'm going to be presenting our standing employee of the month. And I presented to him this plaque. And he said, the very first thing I noticed, the emotion that I was expecting to get, I didn't get that emotion. So I thought, what was wrong? He said a few minutes later, he said, this guy came to my office and knocked and said, sir, I would like to see you. I said, okay, please sit down, please sit down. Sir, thank you. First of all, thank you for the plaque you gave to me. But you know what? I would have preferred if you had monetized this plaque for me. And he said, Bayo, do you know what? I felt so bittered. I felt so down that, wow, I went out of my ways to motivate you guys. And all you have to do is to monetize this. And right there in the session that I asked that very valid question, one very top proverbial question that I'm very sure a lot of us in leadership position would have asked ourselves. Who is wrong in that situation? The follower or the leader? And when we, after so much, it was a 3-day course and we had to digress. At the end of the session, everybody talked about it and said the leader was actually wrong. Previously, leadership used to be about myself, my position, what I think is right, what I think will motivate people, what is written, the theories and all of that. But leadership has actually changed. It's no longer about you, your space, your position, your seat, your title anymore. It's about people. If you want to achieve results, please underline that word. If you want results. If you don't want results, you can keep doing it the same way and you keep getting the same level of energy, the same level of results every time. But if you want results, then you need to change. And that's exactly where I'm going to start my session here today. So when we saw this topic, transitioning from old to new. I say, wow, this is what I've been talking for. The leadership needs to change. The conversation needs to change. We need to constantly educate ourselves about what exactly is leadership now compared to what leadership was 5, 10 years ago. In fact, what will leadership be in another 5, 10 years? It will keep changing. And for us as leaders, especially we young leaders, all of us on this call, young leaders, our ability to embrace the various new competencies for us to be able to transition from that old mentality to the new one is exactly what will make us to be. I don't want us to be in the same position that things we complained about leaders and the people who led us, the people who managed us, the things we complained about them bitterly. I don't want in another 5, 10 years again, people also working with us also complain about the same thing because it is human. It is natural. I've been at a session before and somebody shared with me and said, but do you know what? I joined this organization about 17 years ago. And my boss would always shout at us to get things done. He said, do you know what? I'm in the same position right now, 17 years after. I'm also a regional head today, and I'm also shouting. And I was like, I know what I told her. I said, it's okay, it's human. You complained about it 17 years ago, now in the same position, unconsciously you have learned from the people around, and you have believed that that is the right way to lead people and to get results. And unconsciously, what is happening? You are also doing the same thing. And that's why this conversation about old to new is very, very, very important for us. Thank you, Tommy, for that brief introduction. This is just my profile about who I am. I don't want to bore you a lot with it, but the most essence of this conversation or showing this profile is just, okay, there's a bit of practical and also theoretical experience across the conversation that we're having here today, which will definitely help us a lot. Let's move on because of time. So for me, this is where we're starting from. Talking about leadership. And I want to welcome some of you who are probably getting into leadership for the very first time or holding up leadership position. A lot of time when people come to me and say, oh, Mr. Baya, I became a leader last week. I tell them, no, relax. You didn't become a leader last week. You actually got a leadership position last week. So, and there's a journey for it. So you got a leadership position. Congratulations to you. And now the next thing for you is, what do I need to do to transition from that title, that position, which is the very first level, and move on to the next level to become an outstanding and exceptional leader. And that's what we have here. Taking the first step is a major milestone in your career. The modern workplace, as we know, is actually changing. We're having a lot of people in the workplace. A lot of us here on this call, probably Gen Z, millennials, and each and every one of us. And like I said earlier, the things we complained about the Gen X in their leadership style, I don't want people who are actually working with us today to also complain about the whole thing. So there are so many things that we need to focus on. For me, these 3 things are actually very important for us. And that leads us into this particular topic. Number 1, focus on yourself, your person. You as a leader. I always tell people this. The quality of your life as a leader determines the quality of the people you attract to yourself. Always remember that. The quality of your life as a leader equals to the quality of the people that you attract to yourself. If you don't get things right, if you cannot lead yourself, if you cannot manage yourself, if you don't also achieve results, you're always going to also be attracting average people to yourself. So the first thing you want to focus on, in fact, which I always talk about every time, I don't put people into leadership position until I've been able to see that they can't lead themselves. So it starts with you as a person, ability to lead yourself and get the results done. The second thing is the people that you're leading right now. You must focus on them. The conversation has changed about from you, my space, my office, my seat, and all of that, and all the attention, all the glory coming to you alone as a leader. Now it's changing to the people. I always tell people leadership sometimes it's a very hard call, because a lot of times when we even get the glory, what do? We have to share it with the people. You don't take the glory, but a lot of times when things don't work out, I receive the blame. So, oh yes, I'm sorry, I'm responsible for the downfall. I'm responsible for the failure. But when we're winning, what happens? Oh, it's my team. They won it. They did it. They made it happen. And that's exactly what we're talking about. So you must change that mindset from you being the focal point, always wanting to win and by all costs, and you don't give attention, you don't give glory, you don't communicate, you don't celebrate, you don't acknowledge the people who are actually working. So the people, very, very important. Now, tell me what will take a leader from step 1 to step 10. It's purpose. A purposeful leader. A leader who is constantly communicating. This is where we are, and this is where we're going to. If you cannot communicate to people where you're going to, people will constantly always ask that question, what exactly is, where are we going to? And you will notice that the energy will start dropping along the line. Why? Because people don't have a clear picture about where they are and where they are going to. And the world is changing. VUCA came into existence, I think, during COVID, but it got to Nigeria anyway in 2020, but VUCA has been around since about almost a decade right now, first used in the military. And what are we talking about? It's a model we usually use that for us as leader, we're in a VUCA time, where volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. So that means previously, when you are going to have enough of time before you make decision, is going over. Now for you as a leader, you need to be spontaneous. Ability to make the right decision right there on point is what is important. Look at what I have here. Think your job has changed significantly over the past a decade or two. Compound at the complexity of leading an entire organization. Previous generations of leaders could at least count on a reasonable, stable world where everything was going well, where change unfolded much slower. But what is happening these days? Change is so fast. I think in 2019, if I'm not mistaken, I facilitated well over, maybe over 20 or, okay, let me start, maybe around 12 to 15 strategy retreats. But guess what? Out of all of the strategy tools we use, from PESTLE to SWOT analysis, to all of the tools we use, none of us saw COVID coming. None of us. And when COVID happened, what happened? Leaders right now need to quickly start changing the strategy to be able to accommodate the new guests that we had in town for us, them to still remain in business. And that's what we do. So for us as emerging leaders, understand that these days, the past is increasingly less predictive. So the future is almost unimaginable. The present exists about nanoseconds. We are going to be in that space where if you cannot manage yourself, if you cannot lead yourself, if you cannot make the right decision on time, it's going to also affect your own effectiveness as a leader. And from people's perspective, this would definitely change. Why? Because of the various generations that we're having in the workplace. This is also another big thing that leaders of today will need to work with. Different generations, different values, different interests, so many choices, various levels of self-awareness, different backgrounds, different experiences in life, different exposure, so many experiences. And you as a leader, your ability to be able to lead people to achieve that result is what is most important. And that's exactly what we have here. But this is what is important to me most in all of this slide here today. New age versus old school, new leadership. If you have not learned anything here today, even if it's this alone that we can learn in all of the conversation we're having today, is very important. Let's look at the new school. Let's look at power from the first place. Dictates how to approach and always keen to maintain standards. Love his office more than the shop floor. Like I said earlier, is my space, my seat, my office. That's the old school leadership. But look at the new school leadership right now. Sees the good in everyone and capitalizes on employee strength. Strength, very important. Most times when I have the opportunity of talking to HR leaders, I always ask them this very question. And it comes to us as leaders as well. I know what that question is. Why is it that, for example, let's say TYIL is an organization. And I've always looked at working with the team. Oh, this organization, wonderful. I want to work with them. I want to join them. I want to be part of this journey with them. And guess what? One way or the other, I went through their recruitment process and I joined the organization. And a few months later on, the same level of enthusiasm, the same level of energy begins to drop. Who is asking that question? I thought it's prayer answered. I thought that was your dream place to work. I thought you had your goals achieved. So what is not happening? Why you're no longer excited? about going to the same workplace. And now when they wake you up in the morning, this workplace again. Why? It's because a lot of times, and from my own miniature research that I did, what I found out is that a lot of people want, especially the workplace of today, people want to work in a place where they will be able to exploit on their strengths. The era of, I fit into this structure, irrespective of whatever is happening, just do your job and go home. It's over. People want to come to work and they want to feel like they are doing something meaningful. I want to continuously grow within my strength area. So for you as a leader, it is your responsibility to look at your team and identify the strengths in your team. And do what? And place the people right there in that strength zone and let them maximize that strength till they become an expert in that particular field. That's the future. That's the new leadership. The previous leadership, I don't care about your strength. Just do the work done. There was an organization where I was part of the exit interview while the guy was leaving. And guess what happened? This guy was almost getting out of the organization. I looked at the guy, even during the exit interview, he was so restless. And I asked him, what department do you have this guy? And when the department was mentioned, I said, so you put this restless guy in the office to sit from morning to night, signing documents, and you think you are going to get the best of him. I'm sorry. No, it does not work anymore. I said, put him on procurement, put him in logistics, let him be on the road, let him be moving here and there. That's who he is. And guess what? I'm happy that the CEO listened to me. He did the same thing, moved that guy to that department. And in 3 months, the guy who was almost leaving the organization became the best employee within that particular team. Just because someone was able to identify the strength of that guy and placed him at that zone where he's able to be who he wants to be, explore himself, and be happy doing what he wants to do. And that's the first thing. The second thing, because of time, communication, very important. Communication before used to be, the boss. I remember there was a guy who was talking to me and said, Adebayo, during my team meetings, I'm only the one talking. People come around, 9 o'clock meeting, and I talk all throughout the end. No, okay, the complaint was people don't talk in my meeting. I don't know what is happening. People don't talk. I don't hear them share their thoughts. So I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to join your meeting one day and see how you get things done. So I joined the meeting, and I got that meeting started 9 o'clock, and guess what? 9:50, boss was still the only one talking. And as at 9:55, he came back to the team and said, guys, any suggestion? Guess what the response will be? No suggestion. Let's just close this meeting and just go back home. We are done here. And I told him after the meeting, I gave him the feedback. I said, is this what you do every time? And you think you're going to build people who are going to think for you and prefer solutions to problems? No, it's not going to work anymore. That's old school leadership. School leadership right now, should I even tell you in communication, especially in meetings? In fact, the suggestion is be the last to speak. Do you know what I say so? And I'll give you a typical example. So if we have to deliberate on a conversation, especially when it comes to brainstorming about, what are we going to do next? What do you think about this situation? A lot of times when you put up your foot or what you think is the best idea forward, for the sake of loyalty, you see almost everyone coming to your own side. They don't want to offend the boss. They want to be at the boss side. So a lot of times they'll say, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. But you know what I say? Share the topic. Share what you're going to talk about. Then stay back. Allow people to talk. And when you do that, you encourage collaboration. You encourage communication. You engage in their creativity and their critical thinking skills. And that's exactly what you want to do as a new leader. The last one, people prefers to keep employees as followers, afraid to create leaders. Leaders in the past, I give you a typical example. I remember there was a class I was taking on coaching and mentoring for leaders. And guess what? After the whole session, after sharing all of the models and principles of coaching and all of that, and the woman said, Bayo, I've been in this system for the past 18 years. I know what it took me to know what I know now today. So you expect me, a boy that just joined us some few months ago, you expect me to sit him down and just pour all that I know to him? No, I'm not going to do that. The same stress that I went through to know what I know today, he must also go through that same stress. Can you imagine thinking of a leader that what he or she went through, the same followers must also go through it. I hope we don't have such leaders on this call. People believe that, oh, when I develop others, when I reproduce myself, I'm going to lose my own, command or leadership. Come on, no. Your ability, in fact, I love the words of John C. Maxwell, and he said, you as a leader is not even your ability to create leaders, it's your ability to create leaders who can create more leaders. So when you create that environment where you are able to create more leaders, that's when I can call you a leader. But if every time you enjoy that followership, everybody's saying yes sir to you, when they see you come, oh guys coming, if that's exactly what you enjoy as a leader, then you belong to the old school. Because what is the new school saying? Fully engage people, help them to achieve their potentials. Use the right amount of challenge, confidence, and coaching to help people grow and develop. That's your focus. That's what new leaders do. They are intentional about developing others. They don't want all the knowledge to reside in them. I've been in various organizations, as little as a light bulb is down, and I asked them, can we fix this? Oh, sir, we are waiting for a leader to come. Waiting for your leader? I know what it was. When it comes in, it's so full of himself. It feels, yes, I'm the only one. And you see the boys, they will gather around him and he's trying to fix the bulb. And I say, oh, this is what you enjoy, right? No. I'm going to give you a simple step. And I want you to please write this down. A lot of us here, if you are struggling to reproduce yourself, if you want to reproduce yourself as a leader, 5 simple steps I'm going to share with you. Number 1, do it yourself. Number 1, do it yourself. That's the first point. Number 2, do it while they're with you. Number 2, do it while they're with you. Number 3, do it together. So we're going to share the work 50-50. You're going to do this part. I'm going to do this part. We're going to combine at the end of the day and see what the result is going to look like. Number 4, change it. Let them do it while you now watch them. So that's where you now begin to mentor them. That's where you begin to coach them. That's where you begin to fine-tune them. That's where you begin to correct the little errors that they still make in trying to get the result done. The last one, guess what it is? Let them do it. Don't micromanage. Leave them to do it. Trust them that they can do it. Leave them alone to be able to do it. And that's exactly what we're talking about here. Ability for you to reproduce yourself as a leader is your great achievement as a leader. And you must be intentional. You must create time to reproduce yourself. If you keep enjoying that attention coming to you, yes, I'm the leader, I'm the boss, I'm the boss, I'm the boss. I'm sorry. No, that's your old school leadership style. New school leadership style, they're intentional about reproducing yourself. They create KSS session, knowledge sharing session, where at every point in time, we're going to gather, we're going to discuss, we're going to have conversations about how to get things done. And this is very, very, very important for us. Old values, new values. And a lot of this, I'll probably be sharing this slide with you. So everyone, you can actually have access to this slide. And you can read more. You can see on the left-hand side, those are, and on the right-hand side, those are the new values. So if you want to belong to the new leadership school of thought, you need to embrace the right-hand side, where you are doing it yourself. You create a culture whereby everybody, you are constantly together. You are making things work together. That's what we're talking about. Long-term affiliation, loyalty. The reds are actually what we're looking at for the old school, while the new school is talking about the white. So a lot of times when you combine these things together, it helps you a lot as a leader. We must constantly embrace those old new values that we see in the people that we work with. The skill set, and this is where I'm going to end my conversation with you today. What are those skill sets that I want you, the modern leader, the new competencies that I want us to embrace? Number 1 is continuous learning and unlearning. And that's why you're here today. I'm very sure 8 people we have on 39 right now that we have on this call. We're all here to learn. I'm here to learn. I'm going to be on this call. I'll hear from the other speakers. We must constantly learn and unlearn. I've just shared with you some of the things that you need to unlearn and some of the things you need to learn right now if you want to be able to lead, especially in this time. So continuous learning and unlearning, very important. Secondly, broadening your perspective. You saw that picture earlier about the 6 and 9, and I'm very sure some of you have seen that in various sessions before. I'm standing here, I'm seeing 6. The guy standing opposite is doing what? He's seeing 9. We're not going to see the same thing, but your ability to be open-minded, your ability to embrace the thoughts of others would actually help you to grow as a leader. If you become close-minded and you feel that what I know on how to do it is the best, then trust me. Show me one leader today who, in fact, a lot of times, that's why I love the tech space a lot, because you get to inside and you find out what the leaders there at the point they had to make way for new guys to come, because you can't, the generation, not even the generation, the technology that you use about 5-10 years ago would not always sustain the business right now. So you must continually open arms to be able to embrace new things to come on. Problem solving. Don't be a leader that cannot solve problems. I always say this, and apologies if I have some travel agents here. I always say some leaders are like travel agents. Do you know why? Because they keep sending people to where they have not been before. You know, that's what travel agents do. That was a country I went to a long time ago, and the travel agent was like, wow, it's a beautiful, and I said, Oga, have you been there before? No. So how come you know it's so beautiful and all of that? But that's the point here. A lot of us are all travel agents. You keep sending people to where you have not been. So I want to tell you, you as a leader, ability to roll the sleeves and get the job done, ability to solve problems, complex problems, is exactly your mandate as a leader. The fourth one, develop your self-awareness. A lot of us, you know the Dix personality type. Please go online. It's free. After this today, go online, take a Dix personality, understand yourself. What are my strengths? What is my weakness? What is my this? Understand those part of you. Understand your personality type, so that helps you to be able to relate with others. Very important. Improve your communication skills. Very, very important. Think strategically. And when I say strategically, what I mean is that at every point you're thinking, think about, tie your thinking to a particular goal. Okay, this is what we want to achieve. Let your thinking be along that line. That will help a lot. Think globally. You can't always be restricted and say, oh, my environment, my space, where I am. No, it's not going to help you. If not, when you find yourself in other climes, you struggle to be able to lead people. Leadership is universal. It's universal. So you must constantly think globally, and that would help you a lot. On my final thoughts on this call is the fact that for one or two things that you have learned in this session here today, please take it so seriously. It might be just one thing you've learned on this session today. And there is this formula that I usually give after my session. It might just you taking the next 21 days, 10 things and make things work. So I'm going to say, okay, in the next 21, I'm going to pick this one habit, this one competency, and I'm going to develop that. Studies have shown that it takes about 21 to 60 days to form a new habit. And it takes about 60 to 254 days to form a new personality. So I want to encourage you, if you pick up on one habit and constantly practice it for the next 21 days, it becomes part of you. It becomes one competency. I'm very sure Israel and his team will continuously have conversations like this. So you always have another session where you learn another one new thing and another one new thing. And when you keep doing that, the same people that might initially castigate you for being a different leader will definitely celebrate you when you become successful as a leader. Thank you very much. It's been an honor here with you. And I hope we've been able to have an impactful conversation here today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Adebayo. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It has definitely been an impactful session. Thank you so much. Thank you for giving to us today. Before we quickly introduce the next speaker, please, if you have questions, you can just drop them in the chat box. We will take them after all the speakers have had their session. The next speaker quickly is Sipwe Zulu. Please 1 minute while I share our profile. Okay, so Sipwe Zulu is a global policy development enthusiast and a passionate change maker. She has developed experience in banking and humanitarian services, and she's passionate about making impacts. She'll be taking us through another session of today's theme, which is strategic leadership, followed to lead. Please let's make welcome Sipwe Zulu.
Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. And just before I continue, I want to say thank you to the previous speaker, Mr. Bio. You're so difficult to go after. I think I will say that because you speak so well, and I feel like you've said a lot of the things that I am going to be talking about in this session. And I want to say thank you to the leadership team of the TYIL. Thank you so much for having me once again. I really love being in spaces like this because I learn a lot from all of you, and I'm just motivated by your desire and your drive to learn. I should say, I think that the majority of the people who are on this call are Nigerian. I love Nigerian people because you're so vivacious and you have this desire to continue, to make something out of yourselves, which hasn't been before. And I really commend you for that. So my name is Sipwe Zulu. I am Zambian. Like has been mentioned in my profile, I am experienced banker. Not exactly the most exciting part of my career, but it was a very developmental part of my career, I will say that. And, this is just a note for us, even as we talk about transitions, because I will be talking about an era of dependable leadership. I'm sorry, I don't have a beautiful slide like the previous speaker did have, but I hope you like my voice enough to pay attention to what I have to say. I think that as I was mentioning, that transitions are an important part of our life. They may be painful, but they're a very important aspect of our lives because they help us to develop and to get better. And these transitions happen in every aspect of our lives. Okay, so now we're talking about leadership. We're transitioning from an old form of leadership to a new form of leadership. And it will be painful. It will take a lot of investment on our part. It will take a lot of deliberateness on our part. We have to be intentional. That's the word that I was looking for. Intentionality to get better and to do things differently as from the way that it was done before. So what I'm going to ask is, I will speak a little bit for just 2 or 3 minutes about what dependable leadership is all about. But then I will also ask I had already spoken to Mr. Oyedere a few moments before, and it's a bit abrupt, and I think that they may hate me for this, but I will ask the people who will be speaking today if you can be participating in my session, because I feel like leadership is about vulnerability. Leadership, and this is why I also didn't tell you about it before. I think that leadership is about being vulnerable. You can look at the flyers that we make or our Instagram profiles or our LinkedIn profiles and think that we have it all together, we have it all figured out. So I wanted to catch the speakers a little bit off guard so that they're not prepared and that they're not giving you perfectly chiseled answers, because I think that it's important to learn from people who have gone ahead of you, as the first speaker, Mr. Bio, had mentioned. It's okay if I call you that, right? Okay, perfect. So let's jump right into it. What is dependable leadership? As the name entails, dependable leadership basically refers to an aspect of leadership about where you're able to count on somebody or you can be counted on. And I just want to give you this scenario, okay? So just picture this. You have a friend and you ask your friend to go to the supermarket, or your friend is saying, oh, I'm going to the supermarket. And you tell your friend, hey, can you get me, amala? I've been to Nigeria before, so I know some things. Can you get me amala, indomie, a few things? What else do I remember? Can you get me plantain chips? Can you get me suya? You make a list and your friend says, that be small thing. Please don't mind my my pigeon. I'm trying so hard to be Nigerian. I really love, you have no idea how much I love you guys so much. Yeah. So can you get me this? And the person says, yeah, of course, not be small, not be big issue, something like that. The person says, yeah, of course I will. And 1 hour the person goes away and you're like, okay, maybe they'll come back. So in the second hour, you call your friend and you're like, hey, where are you? You know, and the person says, no, oh, no, I'm on my way now. Just give me time now. I'll be there. And then third hour, the person is nowhere to be seen. Fourth hour, the person is nowhere to be seen. The fifth hour, you call your friend. Eventually, they even just stop picking up your calls, and then they blacklist you, and they no longer want to listen to anything that they don't want to pick up your calls anymore. I don't know if you've been in such a situation before, but I think that I have been, and most of us have been. And that just goes to show, I mean, that when you cannot be trusted in something as small as that, it impacts greatly even on your leadership skills. And this is why we're talking about dependable leadership today, because it is important for people to be able to count on you. When you say that you're going to do something, then you should stick to your word and do that which it is that you're going to do. And so we can now go quickly into the next part of my discussion, which is how do you become a dependable leader? So there's 3 points that I noted. The first thing is I'm Christian, as I don't know if I mentioned it, but I'm Christian. So I just will refer to the Bible. There's a Bible verse that says that he who is faithful in little will be faithful in much. Okay, I know that the reason why we're coming here is to hone our skills so that, we can grow and occupy great leadership positions. And I think that it's important to note, and Mr. Bayo also mentioned it, well, not word for word as I'm going to say it, but leadership is not a position. Leadership is not a position. This is something that you should remember even as you strive and aspire to develop your leadership skills, that leadership is not a position. Right where you are a leader. And in order for you to thrive when you get these positions, when you become CEO, when you become MD, it's because you have honed these leadership skills within you. You've attended events such as this, and you've continued to follow people who have gone ahead of you and made something of themselves. So I was talking about the Bible verse, faithfulness in little. It's easy for you to be, I'll just paraphrase this Bible verse. When you're faithful in little, you will be faithful even when you have much. So dependable leadership starts from the small things that you find yourself doing. I gave an example of going to the store. If you say, I'm going to go to the store and I'm going to buy this for you, do it. If you say, let's do something more personal. If you say, I'm going to use 2 hours of social media on my phone, do the 2 hours, okay? Don't do more. You can do less, of course, but don't go more, because your dependability is your yes being yes and your no being no, okay? The second thing, the second aspect about how to develop dependability or dependable leadership skills is personal integrity. I think I really do feel like Mr. Bayo said everything that I was going to say. To be honest, he just said it in different ways, because personal integrity, for me, I look at leadership as being an inward outward relationship, about how I treat myself, about how I conduct my life. So personal integrity is what you do when nobody is seeing you, and this is what dependable leadership is all about. If you say you're going to start a diet, for example, or if I'm going to start working out, when nobody is looking, what are you doing? If you say I'm not going to do this, or I'm going to do this, what is it that you're doing when nobody is looking? And then the third point is sorry, I've mixed up my notes a little bit. But basically, it's about sticking to what it is that you said. If you said you're going to do something, you continue and you do that which it is that you said. So I'm just going to go quickly because I don't have a lot of time. Mr. Bayo, Mr. Chooks, and Ms. Tolu, you're the people who are speaking today. Hi, nice to meet you. I'm CPUA. So I would just ask questions because, like I said, I believe in vulnerability. I just recently became a mom. Not like I didn't have the babies for myself. I'm staying with my sister and she has twins who are 3 years old. And if there's a way that I have learned dependability or dependable leadership is by looking after these girls, because they want me to do certain things for them that they cannot do for themselves, and this is what leadership is about, being able to help people who cannot help themselves. Mr. Bayo talked about it already. So panelists, Tolu and Bayo, is it okay if I call you that? Yes. Can you just tell me, what do you think is difficult? Like, what is difficult in your own personal walk and in your own personal journey as a leader? What do you think has been the most difficult aspect of honing this dependability skills yes, please. Whoever can go first, please go.
Okay, thank you so much, Tikwe, and hello, everyone. So I think I really like this question, and thank you for putting us on the spot. I really
Sorry. Yeah.
So, I think something that's really difficult about dependable leadership is grappling with when things don't go right. So, you have that sort of personal relationship to leadership, and you have that purpose, and you're managing people maybe, and there's goals that you want to achieve. And then sometimes things don't go right. Sometimes it might be like personal accountability, it might be your fault. It might be something that you did differently, that maybe you should have done a different way. But I think grappling with when things don't go right and figuring out, how do I chart a course that continues to inspire people to give their energy, their time towards this common goal, even when things have gone off the rails. And I think that that's something that's really difficult. That's something that requires you to be vulnerable, for you to say, listen, we planned to succeed, but we didn't. And here's what we're doing next. And I think it's really important, because sometimes when things go wrong, people need something to look to, or someone to look to be able to continue to believe that there's something better that can happen after this. And that's something that I've struggled with, because I'm like kind of like a perfectionist. I work really hard. I care about the things that I do. And sometimes things don't go right. And I have to be the one to say, listen, guys, things didn't work out the way that they did, that we wanted them to. But here's how I can be the person that leads us into something that is successful. So yeah, without repeating myself, I think that that's something that's been difficult.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. And Bio?
All right, thank you so much for bringing me in again on this. When we talk about being dependable as a leader, I think I said it when I was talking earlier, that the quality of your life as a leader as well, so depends on determines the people you also attract to yourself. And a lot of times when I train, and I'm going to speak from a leadership standpoint and also from a followership standpoint. So for us as a leader, being a dependable leader would mean that showing up. I tell people this, and I say, watch sometimes the energy you bring into your team for you as a leader, and watch also the result that you achieve that. So I give you a typical example. MD or the CEO gives an instruction and say, oh, you the leader, go share this mandate with your team, and I want results. And you come in this way. Just watch my facial expression, watch my body language. If I watch my voice speech, and I go and say, they've come again. They said we should get this thing done by Friday. Watch what the response of the team would be. Like, okay, what have they said again? I just noticed that right there, the energy that you're having is contagious. Everybody will just pick up that same energy and they will just go with it. But it's quite different from, oh, guys, we have to get this thing done. Yes, there's a new mandate, there's a new thing that we need to do. And you come with that same energy as well too. And guess what the energy will be? Oh, what have they said again? I just imagine that you putting up the right energy, the right voice speed, the right body language, we just change the narrative and everybody will become that. So for me as a dependent leader, I always talk about that. A lot of times for us leaders, self-motivation is very key. A lot of times people will not motivate you, but you have to motivate yourself. That's from the leadership standpoint. Now from the followership standpoint, I always tell them this. When you see your boss come to the office in the morning and you see a smile here on his face, please note that sometimes he's not really happy. But because you understand how his energy is going to affect yours, that's why. So a lot of time also understand that he's human before that leadership title.
Yeah.
He's human. So he's going to make mistakes. It's like you said, he's going to make mistakes. And sometimes he would come to you and tell you, I've made this mistake. Because, okay, now going back to my slide, leadership of old school used to be, even when everything is not working, you see them standing so tall and like, yes, we can get this thing done. But new school leadership is telling us that, yes, when things are not going, I also acknowledge, guy, we messed up. We didn't do it well. Yes, so let's go back, we strategize, and let's see how we can get things right. So for me, from the leadership standpoint, we have to keep showing up and keep showing right. For the followership standpoint, understand that the leader is also human. He's also going to make mistake, and he will also try as much as possible to get it right. That'll be my point on this.
Okay, thank you so much, Bayo and Tolu. My session is almost coming to an end, but in conclusion, I would just like to talk about something that was requested of me to discuss, that is transitioning. So basically, this session is talking about transitioning from old school to new school. So I was requested to discuss transitioning from followership to leadership. And I think that it's important. Yes, it's very important. But the one thing that I want to address, which might be a bit unconventional of a way to think, is that there is nothing wrong with being a follower. But just please catch what I'm trying to say right now. There's nothing wrong with being a follower, because there are certain aspects of your life which require you to have somebody leading you. Okay. So there are certain aspects of your life, not necessarily of your life, but there are certain aspects, or there are certain sectors, or there are certain areas of your life which require people who have more knowledge than you have, people who have more experience than you have, to lead you. Of course, it's important to take the lead. It's important for you to take charge. It's important for you to take charge of how you're spending your money, of how you're spending your time, of how you're growing yourself as a person. But when you find somebody who knows something more than you do, or somebody who is more well-versed in something than you are, do not be afraid, or do not think that, oh no, because I'm being a follower, I'm just, being walked all over. It's not proper. It's okay for you to take the back seat and learn from people who have gone ahead of you. But yes, I will say that as we continue to aspire towards leadership, I think that I will take the words of Paul from the Bible. Not that I have attained, but I continue to strive. I don't think that I'm the best leader in the world. Looking after these kids has shown me just how many parts of my life that I have to develop, and how I have to continue to, make myself learn from people who have gone ahead of me. And now I'm finding myself on Netflix watching videos about babies. I don't have babies of my own, but I'm just trying to get myself to be better. And so this is what I just want to end on this note. I know that we want to be CEOs, we want to be MDs, but even on the day when, God willing, you find yourselves in positions of authority, do not shy away from being led, because you have somebody who has something more than, somebody who has more knowledge than you do. You have somebody who's in the tech space. You have no idea how to turn on the computer. I will share this story. Like, one time I started working, and I was trying to turn on my work computer, and the computer wasn't going on. So I called somebody from the IT department, and I said, hey, I think my computer is not working. Can you please help me? And this man walks all the way to where I am, to my desk. And he says, what's the problem? I said, I don't know. I'm just pressing this button and the computer is not going on. And then he's like, you've been pressing the wrong button. You should actually use this button. So you see, there's no problem with being led. Okay, there's no problem with being led. The problem comes when you do not take charge of certain aspects of your life or certain aspects of your career where you ought to be in charge. And so without further ado, I just want to say thank you to the leadership team, and thank you to Bayo and Tolu for answering my question on the spot. And God bless. Good night.
Thank you so much, Supwe. Thank you. Your session was impactful. Thank you so much. Our time is fast spent now. I would introduce the next speaker right about now. Tolu Lokpe is our next speaker, and she's an Harvard University graduate and a co-founder of Build Nigeria, an organization invested in building and educating young Nigerians, as well as upskilling pre-college students, training them, and creating social change in the country. So Lokpe will be taking us through disruption and shaping culture through leadership. Please let's make welcome to Lokpe.
Thank you so much, everyone. And just want to echo both the speakers before me. Thank you so much to Israel, to Tommy, everyone on the team for organizing this and for choosing Independence Day to also have it on. I think it's really great to be having these conversations with, within the sort of backdrop of our nation, which there's a lot to say about that. So I want to start off by saying, so to be completely transparent, I had a really difficult time coming up with things to say, not because I don't care a lot about leadership. Leadership is a thing that I've dedicated my life to building and to finding and to empowering. But because I feel like there's still so much that I have to learn as well. And also, to be honest, Mr. Adebayo and Sipwe said 99% of the things that I was going to say. So I'm going to do away with my notes and we're going to go on a journey together and see where this lands us. Okay, so the first thing I want to do, and I saw this done in a session that I was in and I really liked it, is I want to start us off with like a visualization exercise, okay? And I want to engage everyone in doing this too. Speakers, team, participants, everyone, just bear with me. So I want you to take some time and wherever you are, just think about a time in your life where, or just think about someone that you look up to as a leader. It could be anyone. It could be yourself. It could be your teacher, a teacher that you had. It could be a leader in the country. It could be your parents. It could be your siblings. Whatever it is, just think about that leader. And just spend some time thinking about that. I'm just going to pause a little bit. Think about why they're the leader that you look up to. Think about what it is about them that makes you remember them in this moment when I asked for it. Okay, so just keep that with you, all right? And I want to ask, before I move on, is there anyone that wants to share who they thought about? 1 or 2 sentences. Who is the person that came to your mind and why? I teach a lot, so I'm very
Okay, because you helped me,
yeah.
I will help you.
Thank you.
Okay, it's okay. The person that I thought about was my dad. And based on the question that you asked, like, why do I aspire? I think that the reason why I thought about him or why I look up to him in terms of leadership is because I got to see firsthand who he is. Like I said, I thrive on vulnerability. I like to get motivated by people on watching Instagram or watching their YouTube videos and whatnot. But for me, seeing them live out what they talk about is most important for me. And that's why my dad came to mind first.
Thank you so much, Sipwe. I'm going to open the space if there's anyone else who wants to share. I'll just give it 1 more minute. A few more seconds, I mean. Okay.
Okay, so let me quickly step in. So I remember my last boss, my very last boss, Adiola Adegbeso. And there was one thing he taught me. Okay, let me give you like a typical Saturday, not a Friday rather. So a Friday evening when we're leaving office, he asked me, oh, Bayo, what are you doing this weekend? And I said, oh, nothing, come along with me. And we'll go out, we'll hang out together. My boss, this is someone like 2-3 levels away from me. And we'll hang out together. We'll be somewhere around till 1 a.m., 2 a.m. I will probably, will drop me at my doorstep and I will go home. Next day, resumption time, 7:45. If I get to office 7:50, it will be the first one to give me a query. And I'll start looking at it. I said, boss, but you know where we were last night. And he will just tell me, Bayo, answer the query. I don't want to hear anything. And when we're going on back that same day, he asked me again, what are you doing this evening? Let's go out, let's hang out. And until the very day I was leaving the organization, so I asked him, so why do you do this? And he taught me a very important lesson. He said, Bayo, try as much as possible to distinguish between your position and your personality. He said, my position is what gives you that query. My personality is, I don't care if you are 2-3 levels below, that I can hang out and sit with you. So for him, it's a boss I will always remember.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. And I think the reason that I wanted us to do this was because really the chunk of what I want to talk about today is personalizing leadership. How do we personalize leadership? Because I think that, okay, I guess before I go in, let me just say a little bit about myself because I guess it's helpful to know who you're hearing from. So like, my name is Tolu. I recently graduated from Harvard. I studied government and philosophy. Before that, I went to, I was almost going to say my secondary school, but I'm not going to say it. But I went to school in Lagos all of my life before coming to the US for college. What's the thing that really that I'm really passionate about is educational justice. I care a lot about schools. I care a lot about what the country could be doing for young people, and how schools can be designed to give people the tools and the resources that they need to live a good life, to go on and achieve their aspirations. So I've done a lot in that space. When I was in school, I did a lot of service projects. I worked at the Down Syndrome Foundation of Nigeria. I worked at Pichali School for the Blind. I did a lot of work. I did a lot of like community development projects. I was part of an organization called Doctors Health Initiative, who they provide free health services to internally displaced people across the country. And what I did there was basically lead their editorial team and sort of talk to the children, talk to the people in these camps and try to get their stories and try to raise funds for, for their well-being. When I got to college, I decided that I didn't want to be a leader anymore. And what that means was I wanted to be a follower and I wanted to learn from the people that were leading ahead of me. And so I joined a bunch of organizations. I worked at the Harvard Square Homeless Shelter. I did teaching through the civics program where I taught civic education to 4th and 5th grade students. I also was part of the Harvard Global Education Movement, which is an organization that organizes conferences for high school students across the world. And they do like innovation challenges, so challenging young people to come up with solutions to issues in their region. And in all these positions, I was like, no, I'm going to be a member at large. I'm going to be like an officer, and I'm going to learn how are student-run organizations actually run. And I was incredibly just moved by how much work and how much structure Okay, I think somebody is unmuted. Please make sure you mute your mics. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the second round.
Okay. So yeah, I was really just moved by how much work and how much effort went into being able to run organizations like this with the missions that they had. And I learned a lot during my time. But the one thing that I think was my biggest sort of experience in leadership was co-founding Build Nigeria. And I'm going to put in the chat just some where you can learn more about us. But Build Nigeria is a college access program. It was founded in 2020. And basically what we do is we find and support pre-college age Nigerian students, and we give them a year of free college counseling, and basically build their college readiness skills. So it's not just about building incredible, outstanding college applications to colleges in the US, in Africa, so many other places. But it's also about building their college readiness skills. So how do you contribute in small group discussions? How do you write academic research papers? How do you navigate resources that are available to you? How do you manage time? How do you manage stress? Things like that. And we recently just got our first cohort of students into college with full ride scholarships. One of them is actually in California here as well, where I am. And it's been really incredible. But the story of how that came together was just basically me and my co-founder, Ife, reached out to me on Instagram of all places and was like, I hear that you're passionate about education. I wanted to talk about the state of education in Nigeria with you. And what ended up being a Zoom call in the summer of 2020 ended up becoming an organization that is fully fledged and that is working with incredible like young people in Nigeria. So to get into what I really want to talk about, personalizing leadership, I think that there is a mistake, or there's sort of a sense in which when we think about leadership, we think about it outside of ourselves. Like we think about leadership as, okay, who are the people at the top, or who are the people that have led me? And when we are talking about leadership, we have this vision in our heads of the leaders that we've seen and the leaders that are beyond us. But I think that there is something personal about leadership, similar to what the previous two speakers have spoken about. I think that leadership starts, and this is going to sound so cheesy, but I think leadership starts within each and every one of us. I think that when you think about leadership, you have that ideal in your head and you have the examples of the people that have come before you that you've experienced and that you've seen. But there's also a sense in which leadership is a personal journey and it's something that you have to build within yourself. So, for example, I think that there is something very risky and very somewhat radical about leadership when it's personalized. I think that society as a whole is sort of built by people, and there's little, I don't know, what we see as a whole is reflected in how we deal with each other on the day to day. So when we think about the issues in leadership in the country, when we think about issues in how like corruption, we think about abuse of office, we think about bribery, we think about nepotism, we think about sectional politics, all of those things. I always tell myself that these issues that we're seeing on the large scale, on the societal level, how do these manifest in the way that we treat one another and in the way and in the things that we see at the grassroots, at the local level? And I think that there's a lot of examples there to be had. And I think that the risk in depersonalizing leadership and in thinking about people outside of yourself when you think about leadership is that we fail to recognize the role that it plays in our day-to-day lives. And what can that look like? How do you personalize leadership? Well, there are a few steps that I think about. I think, first of all, you have to accept that it can be personal. So you have to accept leadership as something that is meaningful to you. Is this really something that you've thought about and you think this is something that I want to build in myself? This is an intentional virtue or an intentional skill that I want to take the time to recognize and to build in myself. You have to accept that it can be personal, that it doesn't only exist outside of yourself, but it's something that can exist within you as well. And then you have to seek it out. I think that one of the most important things that I've done in sort of my life is really seek out the leaders that have continued to inspire me. And what that can look like differs for everybody. I know like mentorship is a big thing now within like young people our age. But leadership is something that you have to seek out because it's something that you can't just learn. Like we can sit on a Zoom call and we can talk about leadership for hours and hours, but at the end of the day, it's something that you have to practice and it's something that you have to be intentional in finding. And then you have to nurture it in yourself. So what that means is you have to sort of have a personal relationship with what you are building in yourself when it comes to leadership. You have to seek out opportunities that allow you to continue to build these skills. You have to continue to recognize when things can be going differently, or recognize what opportunities there is for you to continue to nurture it in yourself. And then after nurturing it, you have to also recognize it in others. This is similar to seeking it out. And then you have to grapple with its absence. And that's one thing that's really important to me. Like you have to be able to look at situations and look at circumstances and think there was an absence of leadership in this event. And like really understand that like that absence of leadership has a role to play in what the eventual outcome was, and basically be able to look at society through the lens of leadership and through the lens of, I understand that leadership has a role to play in the way that we see the things that are happening happen, and basically be able to understand like when there's an absence in leadership, what does that mean? And how does that, in fact, just even personal level, how does that make you feel? Because I know one of the things that I felt when I grappled with my role as a leader is that I really felt, and I was really worried about the fact that when I was younger, there were very few leaders within the country, people who look like me, people who are from Nigeria, that I felt like I could look up to, and that I felt like were people that I aspired to be. That has somewhat changed now because I've made an intentional effort to meet people like Israel and Tommy, who are doing incredible things, who I look up to. But I remember like just feeling as a child that like, if I were to write an essay, who is like a Nigerian leader that I cared, like that inspires me the most, that I couldn't find anything. And then you also have to celebrate and reinforce leadership. And I think that this can be difficult because I think as a country, there's a lot, I think we've gotten used to bad things happening a lot. And I think that there's a sense in which when we see good leadership, or when we see examples, I should say, of good leadership, we tend to be skeptical sometimes. And we tend to think that oh, this is a good initiative, but will they manage it right? Or this is a good initiative, but will it actually stand the test of time? And I think that that's very fair, because we've been used to just seeing a lot of bad leadership. Or maybe I don't even think bad leadership is a term, just absence of leadership is what I would say. But I think that there's something to be said about celebrating leadership when it exists, and also just continuing to reinforce it in the things that we see. And so those are some ways that you can sort of personalize leadership, that you can take it beyond what you see on the outside and what that ideal of leadership you have in your head, and think about, how does leadership start with me? Now, I do want to say, I spent all this time talking about personalizing leadership, but I also do want to say that at the end of the day, personalizing leadership is only one part of the story, okay? At the end of the day, society is built not just by people, but by systems and by structures. And by saying personalizing leadership, it's not sort of like a replacement for the sort of systemic change that we need to see, right? It's just sort of a way of thinking about, how do we, at the personal level, build the things that we want to see at the societal level, and how can those things come together? So those are some thoughts on personalizing leadership. I guess I don't have that much more time left, but I want to talk about, like, what next? What can we take away from this? I guess one thing I want to say is, maybe we should be thinking more about the purpose of leadership, and what happens when, actually, maybe not. Okay, I want to think about how risky leadership can be. So there will come a time when you have to put your name in the hat, and you have to support someone you think is the right leader for something. And sometimes that can be a risky choice, and sometimes that can be the unpopular choice. But I think one of the benefits of personalizing leadership and developing a sort of culture of leadership in the way that you live your life is recognizing that sometimes that's just the case, and recognizing that it is a personal decision to support a leader in the way that you can. And sometimes that decision can be difficult. So before I leave, before I end this talk, I want to talk about the purpose of leadership. And so my background is in philosophy. And one of the things that I like to do is just end every discussion with a fundamental question that we can think about. So I think for this question is, I want us to think about what the purpose of leadership is. Is leadership something that is beneficial to build in ourselves just for the sake of it? Or is this something that serves greater ends? And for me, I think that I've said a bunch of things. I think of leadership as a social virtue. I think it's something that is developed through habit and practice, and not something that can be learned through direct instruction. I think it's something that exists in our lives, and something that we, even though we see it on the grandest scale, that it is personal to us. But I also think that leadership serves many ends, and I think that those ends are also really important. So I would I would encourage each and every one of you to think about leadership on the personal level, to think about how it affects leadership on the societal level, and to think about how we can build a culture of leadership, a culture of dependable leadership, like we've spoken about previously, by starting with ourselves. And while we do that, I urge us to continue to check in with ourselves, to create high standards for ourselves when it comes to leadership, to continue to check in with those standards, and to just recognize that you need to live your life in a way that contributes to the purpose of growing leadership around us. So thank you so much for listening. I hope that wasn't too bad, given that I just winged all of that. But thank you so much for being here, and for just taking the time out to learn from people around you, which I think is just very important. But yeah, thank you all.
Thank you so much, Tolulope. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We really enjoyed this session. Thank you so much. And thank you to all our other speakers and every other participant that been here since we started. Thank you so much. We are moving to the very last speaker for today, and then we would have question and answer, and then call it a day. Our last speaker is our current team lead at the Teens and Youth in Leadership. Chooks Austin, and is directly involved with developing programs and initiatives targeted at helping the community members grow. He also has a career in the health sector as a public health researcher, and he'll be taking us through the topic viral leadership, raise leaders everywhere. Please let's welcome Chooks Austin.
Hi, good evening. It's so great to be here. Hi, Tommy, can you confirm if you can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, okay. Awesome, awesome. So I really want to first of all appreciate Tolilope. I want to appreciate the Adebayo and the way it's been a very terrific session, and I've been really I've been buzzing within me because leadership is something I do love to talk about as well. So like we repeatedly said, TYIL is an organization that's so much vested in the interest of raising leaders. Please permit me my video to be a bit off, so that we have technical issues with bandwidth. So it's best if I leave the video off. Okay, so that said, TYIL is vested in the interest of raising leaders across Africa. And when I first came in contact with Israel, I've known Israel for almost 4-5 years. I was really caught up with the passion of leadership. Prior to me meeting Israel, I had not. It has always been a subject that I've not given so much attention to, but then it's kind of dawned on me, having heard him speak on the importance of leadership. Then it kind of resonated with me, like, oh, I think I should probably look this a bit further. And then all of a sudden it just became a passion, became an interest, and ever since then I have not looked back. And so most of my growth have come through this process. It's been a very long process. It's been a journey for me, and I've absolutely loved it, because I've learned, not just head knowledge, but by experience. And so that's what TYIL is all about. At the end of this session, I would have successfully handed over to some of us the blueprint, on your role as stepping into the place of dependable leadership. As much as possible, I want to make the chat session very lively. So please, if you can, take on your mobile phones, there on the chat box. I want to ask a question. Why must I become a leader? I want you to answer that question yourself. Why must I become a leader? What is it about leadership that interests you? Why are you on this call? I mean, you saw the flyer, you saw the link, you got an invitation. Why were you interested? Why were you motivated? Why must I become a leader? I really appreciate answers on the chat section. Thank you. While I wait for answers, why must I become a leader? It's a very simple question, but you find out that most people have not thought about it. And I'm just curious to know the kind of responses I'm going to get. Why must I become a leader? Okay, I've not gotten any response yet. Awesome. Emmanuel is saying to bring change in the health sector, innovatively in Nigeria specifically. That's a very big need. That's a very big goal, to bring change. Any other response? Why must I become a leader? To impact humanity. Thank you so much, Mr. Israel. All right, so keep those answers coming. Okay, a lot of lives are depending on me. That's awesome. So you're probably like a family man, or you're like a very, very important person to your friends. Okay, I want to change, and I want to be the change I see in the world. That's very personal. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone. Now, the answer is very simple. There is a gap. There's a gaping desire for leadership, and just as John Maxwell would put it, very simple. In every one of us is the desire to leave an impact on society. And so most likely than not, you tell yourself that I'm made for more. I don't know if any of us have this feeling. There's something intrinsic about your personality that wants more. And so right there is the seed for leadership. All right. And so that is the crucial answer you must understand, that there is a need for leadership. No, but the idea behind understanding that question is the experience itself. What exactly causes you to want to get into that space of thinking about leadership? Viral leadership for me is simply an intentional approach towards influencing our communities with a human-centered development. I repeat, viral leadership is simply an intentional approach towards influencing our communities with human-centered development. Let's take a journey back to 2020. At the very peak of COVID, most of us never anticipated COVID, just like Mr. Bayo said, mentioned. COVID was just like an impromptu, delivery on humanity. And if you can track, some of the metrics that have come in some of the development that have come in through the realization of how people have been able to mitigate the impact of COVID, we have seen that a lot of people have stepped into position of leadership, and that's the crucial answer I want us to figure out. That in every challenge, in every problem, around society, is the possibility of you to birth solutions. And so that's where leadership comes in. Leadership is you accepting that responsibility and then using that responsibility to effect change, in society. I just want to highlight the keywords viral. Let's take V. V is simply value oriented. What kind of problems are you looking to solve in your community? So Emmanuel made mention, like, he wants to bring change in health sector. That's a very big, ambitious goal. It's seeing a problem. It means that in a society, there's a challenge of health, and he's positioning himself to understand that this is a problem, this is a challenge, and I need to solve it. Value oriented. Now, when what is value? What does it mean to have value? Bringing solution, giving an answer, solving problems. That's value. You pay people, money because of the value they're able to give to your life. When you take a transportation, or maybe through an airplane, or maybe public transport, they're adding value to your life. That isn't your means of transportation until you pay them. That is value. Because somebody is able to anticipate a challenge that you would need to get to the place of work on time, right? And because you need to get to the place of work on time, he solved that challenge by providing you, easy transportation. And so you pay him for that value. That is one of the things you should consider. What are the problems? What are the challenges that you find around society? Is intentional focus and discipline. Now, one of the key aspects, one of the key indices of a very great leader is his ability to hone his skill in focus. How focused are you? Focus is not just you desiring to change something and then starting the process. Like Mr. Bayo said, there's a number of days required for you to be consistent, for you to build an habit, right? And so how do you consistently stay focused in building that new habit? Now, take for example, you say you want to change lives. That's a very broad statement. How do you want to change life? When you figure out the value you want to have to humanity, how do you want to stay consistent in building the solution around it? You see, because gold in its purest form is not desirable, right? So in its natural form, is not desirable. When you see gold, from mining, if you talk to miners, there's nothing interesting about gold, just seeing it in its natural form. But the ability to refine that gold consistently through heat and through purification process brings out that allurement to the resource of the gold. So that is the potential of the gold. So the potential of the value of the gold is not visible until it goes through the process of refinement, and that's intentional. It's an intentional process. The law of physics will tell you that when you put I don't know if you a science student, we have science students in the house. When you channel a prism and the reflection of the light towards an object, maybe a paper, right? When you channel that, there is nothing that happens to it. But when you channel it on one spot consistently, all of a sudden there's a spark and there's a fire. That paper catches fire, right? Now, that is the idea of focus. Focus goes beyond doing it once and doing it twice. It's a process of consistently building that. R is relate globally. the world has now become a global village, right? You were not informed around that. When the advent of WWW, in the early 90s, right? When we started having the boom of WWW, nobody was told that the internet was going to take over our lives. It just happened. But with that process, with that change in society came birth new ideas, birth new solutions, and all of a sudden we are living in a global village. It means from the confine of our homes, we can all connect to this social gathering, right? We are connected to this conference. We have the ability to understand. We are receiving lectures, and we are connecting with people that can add value to us, maybe now, maybe future, right? So the idea of being global is now a compulsory, idea you must think about. It's not just about saying you've beat the standard of society, your local society. It has now gone beyond that. There's a shift. Your global competition is no longer your friend or your colleague, at the place of work, in your school. Your competition right now is the global world, right? And so as a leader, I want you to understand that you should start looking at leaders all over the world. Look at what they're doing. Look at the impact they're creating. I want to motivate you to have an idea of how big of a potential you can actually become, and not to just limit yourself to how small your environment is. Think globally. And then A is to attract talent. Now imagine you are yourself as a CEO or as an entrepreneur, or you're building or starting an initiative, right? You want to make sure that the people you bring into your circle of space, your influence, they have the right resource and talent to deliver on the job, right? John Maxwell called it the whole lock principle, is the accommodation. Who are your closest circle of friends? Who do you know, that can add value to you, to put your vision, can put your idea, your leadership potential to the test? Who are these people? How far have they gone, right? So that is one of the things you should know about attracting the right talent. You should be intentional towards that. You should not just leave it to chance, right? And then L in viral means leveraging communities. And this is the crucial part I want us to understand. Now, in the last 5 years, 10 years ago, you probably would have done something all by yourself. It was possible. All you needed to do was to put the right systems in place. All you needed to do was to stand out, go to school, come out with a first class or a second class upper if you're Nigerian, or whatever grade, or metric they use in your country. That was enough 20 years ago. That was enough 15 years ago. But right now, that's not enough. In fact, the bar has been raised without your permission, and you must now raise your game. And one of the things you can do, to put you on a fast pace is to leverage communities. Who are the communities that are around you? Who are the people that can buy into your idea? How can you merge? How can you form a unified idea that's able to build the local standards of a society? You see, because if you leave it by chance and you leave it to doing it as slow as you continue to grow, I said you just want to grow slowly and learn through the process all by yourself, you're going to lose out on a lot of opportunities. You're going to lose out on a lot of influence that can help you and help your whatever idea you want to do, as pertaining to leadership. So you must be very, very intentional about that. Who are the communities around me? How can I leverage these communities? Right? For you to leverage these communities, you must ask yourself, going back to the place of talent, right? What are the skills? What are my competence? What are the expertise? Who is the authority in this field? All right. So there are various levels to having understanding to this thing. But because of time, I'll just run through them. Number one, you should think of the skill, right? Skill. Someone that is skillful means, someone that has the potential. Maybe he can sing, maybe he can dance, maybe he can write. That's a skill, right? Now, when you go into the place of, competence from skill, it means that you're now competent in your skill. People can pay you for that, right? So if you have a skill, people can pay you for that. But competence now goes beyond skill. Competence means that you are so good in what you do, people now refer you to other people, right? So people can bring you into their network because they see you as competent, right? When you move from competence, you get into the place of expertise. Expertise is telling the world that, look, I'm not just skillful in this thing. I'm not just competent in this thing. I'm an expert. It means I've dedicated so number of hours into my craft, and I've honed my skills and potentials to this zenith, right? I'm an expert. So when you look at football, in the traditional football, that we see today, There are people that come into the match and change the game. Why? Because they've learned the art of football over a period of time. The same thing with every other field, sphere of influence. There are some people that come and speak, and you know that this man has something to deliver because he has not just done it once, he has not just done it twice, he has been doing it consistently. And so he's an expert. Now, when you move from the zone of an expert, you get into the place of authority. An authority figure is someone that tells you that I'm not a mentor. Not only am I not just a speaker or an expert or competent in this, I'm a mentor, I'm an authority. It means if they call the first 5 people in that field, they should mention your name. That's the place of an authority. It means your endorsements can be the breakthrough to somebody else, an authority figure. So you must begin to leverage your ideas or your leadership potentials to the place of an authority. I think that is the highest zenith you can get to for you to be able to have global dominance. All right. And so I want to put this question to you. Whatever field of influence, whatever strategy, idea, leadership position you're looking at acquiring in the next 5 years, you should always bring this to your focus. All right. Where is my place of value? Where's my place of purpose? If you've discovered your place of purpose, that is why I asked you, why do you want to be a leader? Right. Now, when you figure that out and you put in the work, you must not ask yourself, how am I going to be? Who should I talk to? So you can leverage communities. Who in this field do you think is better, is good in doing what it does? Make intentional effort to connect to that person or to those people. All right. And so that's the concept of raising leaders everywhere. And so a challenge I found with when I talk to people around the concept of raising leaders everywhere is the idea of borderlessness. And so because I mentioned the world is a global village, it means your leadership potential is sought after globally. So people are hungry to know what you can deliver, the value you can bring to society. And you'll be shocked, you'll be so surprised that once you begin to expand your ideas outside of your local confinement, there's so many people that are willing to tap into the idea. It's the concept of raising funds for startup. It means that some people that believe in this idea and they want to put their resources to seeing that it comes to life. Borderlessness. It means that through the use of social media, viral, through the means of leveraging communities, going viral in preaching this idea to others, you're able to leverage the mass amount of resources. And resources is not just limited to funding, right? It can be expanded to human resources, skillful talent, people coming into your life and buying into your ideas and willing to pay the time, to see that idea comes to life. Once you've been able to convince not just one person, but more people to buy into whatever leadership ambition you are thinking of organizing, I tell you become borderless. And so you're no longer restricted by the confines of your society. You build communities. One of the things I would advise you is to build communities. Wherever you do, build communities. The future of remote work, the future of tech, the future of education, the future of whatever, name it, is hinged on the ability to leverage communities. I keep on repeating it. Africa is a continent where most of the opportunities are not available just like that. So you need to harness the communities around you, right? And you're not an island, so please don't try to do it on your own. Train staff, members, students, and leadership. So most of the idea behind this particular statement has been mentioned by Mr. Debayo. It's crucial to know that you should not just do it yourself. The idea is to replicate yourself more than you can. Okay, replicate yourself not just once, but consistently through systems, right? Through structures. It means that if you're not around, your project should not die. The fact that you take a leave to tomorrow does not mean that your job, the opportunities that God placed in your heart, that idea that you now have, the vision you now have should just die just because you're not around. You must be able to raise people that can stand to represent that vision. And so that's the idea of training. You must be intentional about it because it's very difficult to train people. Okay, so consistently sticking to the process would really help you if you put your effort to developing people. And then these people become an exponential growth system, because when you train one person, you are going to replicate yourself in just one person. But if you train 10 people, those 10 people can train 10 people. Now, if you look at it exponentially, 1 + 1 is 2, right? But 1 raised to power 1 is still 1, right? But if you say 1, if you train yourself, if you train 10 people and 10 raised to power 10, it's not 1, it's 100. So you are amplifying your reach. So the idea is to bring people, sell your idea, sell your vision, sell whatever potential you want to offer to the world, make people buy into that, and then develop them, and then allow them, assign responsibilities to them, allow them run, on their own, because people are looking to make a difference on their own. Naturally, it should be an easy process. When you give them the right tools and the right training, they're going to do amazing stuff. And you are going to be one that has left an impact in that person. And then finally, you need to mentor others. Replicating leaders, it just ties into it. So mentor others, take your time to, love, appreciate them, and then make sure that mentoring is not just a 6-month thing. Mentoring is a process. I feel mentoring to me is a lifelong process. As long as your mentor is still alive, there's always something to learn. And so be humble. If you're a follower, you're looking to get into a place of position, and as a leader, be humble to accommodate people's, flaws. Try to mentor them. That's the idea about mentoring. Wanting to, uplift them from the place where they are to the place where you are, right? So be intentional towards that. Once you've completed all these blueprints, trust me, the goal will be that you are going to be in sync with your purpose and the idea around your vision, in leadership. And simultaneously, you'll have raised leaders that are competent and not just liabilities. You'll have raised successful leaders that can go out and raise other leaders. And so that is what Africa actually needs. The continent of Africa has been starving for leadership. Oh my God, we've been so starved of leadership. It's the reason why when somebody sensible speaks just little sense to the average youth of Africa, they're surprised, they're caught up like, do we have this kind of person? And they are following after that person. You can be that spark in your niche. So regardless of health, regardless of education, regardless of any niche you want, the idea of TYIL is to harmonize all this structure together. You want to see your vision, you want to scale your vision, you want to make sure your vision is at the center of Africa's need. And once we can collaborate with you, we are able to pull our resources together, we're able to build our communities together, and we are going to do amazing stuff together in Africa. So thank you so much for for this amazing time. I really hope I've been able to shed a little bit of light into sending the idea of viral leadership across Africa. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Shooks. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Well done to all our speakers. Thank you so much. We had an amazing session today. So our time is fast spent, but in 30 seconds, we'd just like to have last words from all our speakers, from Mr. Debayo, from TYIL, from Zipwe, and then from Shooks. I think we'll go in the order in which they spoke. Mr. Debayo, 30 seconds, your last words.
For me, leadership is a lifelong journey. We keep learning, we keep getting it right. Just always imagine you going to the gym like, oh, I want to have 6 packs. And that's my goal. You don't go on day 1 and you get 6 packs on day 1. It's not possible. On day 2, you don't get 6 packs. In fact, on day 100, you don't get 6 packs. You keep going, you keep doing, you keep doing. One day, you're going to get there. So that's the same advice to all of us. It's a lifelong journey. So let's keep learning and let's keep an open mind. And I'm sure we're going to get there. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your time here. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you so much to the team. Thank you so much, Mr. Ayodele and all the other speakers. And to everybody, just to reiterate what Bayo has said, don't stop learning. I continue to learn every day. And of course, if you want to stay in touch, my social media is Sipiwe Zulu, just as it's written here. And all the best and God bless. Okay, the girls have to now eat. So have a good night, everybody.
Yeah, and thank you so much. I think what I would just say is don't give up. It's a long journey, it's a long road ahead, but don't give up. Just keep believing in your purpose, keep believing in yourself, keep building community, keep supporting each other, and things will work out.
Okay, so for me, I think leadership is you coming to that place of responsibility, having an idea of your purpose, wanting to fulfill purpose, which is very crucial, and then replicating yourself as much as possible, your ideas around the world. I feel that's the only way we can leave a lasting impact on society. So just like the Akian mentioned, in our book, My Dream is Bigger Than I. Your leadership potential is beyond you. It's for the world. You should die empty. You should leave it all as a leader. Give everything in your capacity. Do your best. Make sure that you are able to, at the end, replicate leaders. That can take up this responsibility way after you're gone. I think that's all the concept I really appreciate this amazing time.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Adebayo. Thank you, Tulokwe. Thank you, Sipwe. Thank you, Chooks. Please can we all unmute our mics and just say thank you to all our speakers. That's been a really amazing session.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Because of our time, we'll only be able to take just one question. We have a question from Roland, and the question is directed to Mr. Adebayo. He's asking Mr. Adebayo to share with us how he was able to realize past, present, and future leadership in Africa, and why Africa is the most continent facing poor leadership in the world. Mr. Adebayo, 2 minutes.
Okay. Past, present, future. Is that the question?
Yes, it is. I am not so sure. Past, present, and future of leadership in Nigeria.
That's another leadership topic for another conference. But understand that we always everything is leadership, and we're still on that lifelong journey. We've been coming from somewhere. We hope we get right in 2023. And we hope that yes, but I can always say, and which is where I'm going to wrap this up. A lot of times when people ask me about leadership, I said it starts with self. I think and when I say self, I'm talking about family. If family gets leadership right, the society will get leadership right. So if we're able to raise young leaders like you and I, who are committed in doing it right, I think we'll also build a society that will get it right. If you look through the books, and there's a book I want to recommend for all of us, Why Nations Fail. Go and get that book and read and see why leaders of great nations, great nations that we have today, it's not a function of the current leader who made it right. Their forefathers made it right. Their own forefathers made it right in Africa. It's a question for another day. Did they make the right decision at a point? It's a question for another day. So please, but for me, my focus now, they are not on this call. We are the one on this call right now. Let's begin to do it right. So when we find ourselves in that same position, we'll also do it right. That would be my answer to that question.
Thank you so much, Mr. Adebayo. I hope that answers your question, Roland. With that, we've come to the end of this session. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying through to this time. We implore you to please share what you've learned on social media, on your WhatsApp status, on Instagram. You can follow us on Instagram as well. The handles to our social media pages will be sent via email. We would also share this recording as well as a feedback form to just hear your feedback on how this session was and what we can do to improve subsequent sessions. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for staying through with us. Thank you to all our speakers again. We appreciate you. Thank you. Till next time. Bye.
Thank you so much.